The air hung heavy with the unspoken truth. I was pregnant, and the child wasn't my husband's. My name is Elara Vance, I'm 28 years old, and I'm carrying a secret that threatens to shatter my world. The baby growing inside me belongs to someone else entirely. My husband, Rhys Thorne, was my university classmate, the same age as me. Doesn't his name sound straight out of a domineering novel? He certainly looked the part. A towering 183 centimeters with bronze skin stretched taut over 8 defined abs. He had the physique of a movie star. He reminded me of someone like Chris Hemsworth or Jason Momoa, a real head-turner. But in reality, beyond the impressive physique and the suggestive name, there was little resemblance to a fictional billionaire. Rhys came from a difficult background. His father died young, and he was raised solely by his widowed mother. This upbringing had perhaps inevitably shaped a personality that could be, at times, a little peculiar, even difficult. Still, I didn't care about any of that back then. What mattered was how incredibly handsome he was. I pursued him relentlessly for 4 long years. It wasn't until the final semester of our senior year that he finally agreed to be my boyfriend. My family and friends weren't exactly thrilled about our relationship. They saw the differences in our backgrounds, maybe even sensed the underlying complexities in Rhys. But love, or what I believed was love, was blind, and in the end I married him. I'd envisioned a blissful, perfect life together. The kind you see in romantic movies. Never in my worst nightmares did I imagine that what awaited me was an endless cycle of frustration, hurt, and profound unhappiness. The trouble began the moment we returned from our honeymoon. Still basking in the afterglow, laughing and teasing each other, we opened the door to our new apartment, the home my parents had generously bought for us free and clear. And there she was, seated squarely in the center of the living room sofa, her face long and unsmiling. His mother, my new mother-in-law, Elara Thorne. What was she doing here? My heart sank a little. I glanced at Rhys, who offered me a sheepish grin. "Honey," he said, his voice a touch too bright. "Neither of us is great at housework. Mom's just idle back home anyway. Why not let her put her energy to good use and help us out?" A sharp pang of betrayal hit me. Before we got married, Rhys had promised, absolutely promised, that his mother wouldn't move in with us, that our little apartment would be our private sanctuary. A space just for the two of us. And now? His broken promise stung. I forced out a strained, "Hello, mother-in-law." Then, unable to mask my frustration, I retreated to the bedroom, the door closing with a soft click that spoke volumes of my simmering anger. Rhys followed swiftly. He was a master of diffusing my anger when he wanted to be. He massaged my shoulders, whispered sweet nothings, his words laced with apology and affection. Looking up at his strong, handsome face, the one I'd fallen so completely for, I found myself melting, compromising yet again. "This apartment is our home, bought outright by my parents as our little nest," I reminded him gently. "I truly don't want anyone disrupting our space. Can she just stay for 1 month? Will that work?" He nodded eagerly, relief flooding his features. "Yes, absolutely. 1 month. Wife, you really are too understanding. Moi." He leaned down and kissed my forehead. That evening, I tried my best to be the picture of a good daughter-in-law. I wore a smile, helped prepare a table full of what I hoped were delicious dishes, wanting to make up for my earlier retreat. But Eleanor was having none of it. She found fault with everything in the apartment, seemed to think I was incapable of taking care of Rhys, and was particularly annoyed that Rhys had helped me in the kitchen. Her expression grew colder and colder throughout the meal. The next morning, Rhys and I were still tangled in bed, enjoying those lazy, affectionate moments only newlyweds share, when the bedroom door burst open with a jarring bang. Eleanor stood framed in the doorway, her face utterly devoid of warmth. "What time is it? Are you not getting up yet?" Rhys started to sit up. "Mom, I'm getting up now." Eleanor's voice softened as she spoke to her son. "Shinna, you go back to sleep. It's still early. A man needs proper rest to provide for the family and earn money." Then her gaze snapped back to me, her voice turning icy. "Elara, as a daughter-in-law, you need to act like one. Aren't you going to get up and make breakfast? Where are your manners?" I glanced at my phone on the nightstand. It was barely 6 o'clock. Her words ignited a fire in my chest. Manners? What manners? Why should he get to sleep while I had to jump up and make breakfast? We both worked. I probably even earned more than he did. I used to cook for him because I loved him, not because of some arbitrary rule about being a wife. Suppressing my rising temper, I exaggerated a yawn, feigning a lack of concern. Mom, it's still quite early. If you're hungry, there's bread in the fridge. Eleanor's face tightened, her voice sharp as she cut me off. How can a daughter-in-law make her mother-in-law eat plain bread? Is that appropriate? My patience wore thin. If she didn't want bread, there was a breakfast shop downstairs with endless options, clean, convenient, and not even that expensive. Suggested, trying to keep my voice level for Rhys's sake. Mom, there's a breakfast shop just downstairs. They have everything. How about you go eat there? To my shock, Eleanor erupted. Pointing a trembling finger at me, she began to shout, her voice shrill and accusatory. How dare you act like a daughter-in-law? Didn't your mother teach you about being thrifty and managing a home? You want to eat out for breakfast? Do you think my Thorne family is made of gold? How could my shatter marry such a wasteful woman? I was stunned into silence, reeling from the torrent of abuse. It took me a moment to fully grasp that this was a deliberate tactic, her way of asserting dominance, a power play. I wanted to retaliate, to defend myself, but my unfortunate incontinence took over. When overwhelmed by emotion, my body betrayed me. I could only weep, unable to form a coherent sentence. All I could think was our sweet, happy newlywed life. How had it been completely ruined the moment she arrived? Rhys, disturbed by my crying, roared impatiently from the bed. It's so noisy. Get out, both of you. Can't a person get some rest? Eleanor seemed ready to continue her tirade, but seeing Rhys with a pillow over his head, she fell silent. She shot me one last venomous glare and stalked out. Was that supposed to be Rhys defending me? All I felt was a heavy, suffocating weight in my chest. We had agreed to live alone precisely to avoid this kind of situation. The generation gap is vast, and the mother-in-law/daughter-in-law relationship is notoriously difficult, especially with someone as critical and demanding as Eleanor. Unable to face the tension at home, I decided to use my remaining vacation days wisely. I called my best friend Zara Ellison and met her for coffee. What? Your mother-in-law is living with you? Zara exclaimed, her eyes wide. I nodded miserably. Rhys promised me he'd send her back home after a month. Zara stirred her coffee, her expression skeptical. I'm willing to bet you anything. His mother came here with no intention of ever leaving. No, I insisted, clinging to hope. He promised me. He'll keep his word. Oh, really? Zara raised an eyebrow. Then why is she living with you now? Zara's question silenced me. She was right. If Rhys truly intended to keep his promise, Eleanor wouldn't be here. But, I added, trying to justify it to myself as much as to Zara, he argued with his mom to defend me. This wasn't strictly true. Rhys hadn't defended me at all. Eleanor had just screamed at me, but how could I admit that to my best friend? Zara saw my stubbornness, sighed, and shook her head with a wry smile. Fine. The observer sees clearly while those involved are blind. Talking more now is useless. Let's just wait and see how it plays out. We talked for hours, pouring out my frustrations and her concerns, until dusk settled over the city. We grabbed a quick dinner together, and then reluctantly we each headed back to our own lives. At 7:45 p.m., I arrived home. As I was about to slip into the bedroom, Eleanor's voice stopped me. Rhys still wasn't back from working overtime. She stood there, hands on her hips, her tone commanding. Coming back so late and dinner isn't made. Don't think just because shatter favors you, you can do whatever you want. I'm telling you, that's impossible. What did she want now? I tried to remain calm. Mom, I'm not doing whatever I want. I just want to live a good life with Rhys. She sneered. Live a good life? With your character? Incapable of cooking, incapable of cleaning? Is that the way to live a good life? She clearly hadn't let go of the breakfast incident. I tried to keep my emotions in check. Both Rhys and I work hard. We don't have much time to cook. The breakfast shop downstairs has variety, it's clean, and it's not expensive. What's wrong with that? Eleanor's voice became a piercing shriek, dragging out the words. Too quiet for one bun. That's not expensive. I couldn't bear the constant criticism. How could I possibly live like this? I frowned, unable to hide my frustration. Mom, things are more expensive here than in your hometown. How about, since I'm still on vacation for a few days, I take you shopping for some clothes and then Rhys can drive you back home. That way. What did you say? She snapped. I said, I'll buy you clothes and then Rhys can drive you back. Oh, my heavens above! Hearing my suggestion, Eleanor suddenly sank to the floor with a dramatic flourish, wailing and beating her chest. I must have been completely out of my mind to let such an immoral, unfilial woman into my home. It hasn't even been 2 days and she wants to kick me out. What's the point of living? I might as well die. Suddenly, she scrambled up and dashed towards the balcony doors. Mom! I cried out, genuinely startled by her theatrics. Just then, Rhys arrived home from work and saw the scene unfolding. He sprinted to the balcony and grabbed his mother, who was leaning precariously near the edge, pulling her back inside. Seeing Rhys, Eleanor let out a piercing cry and threw herself into his arms, sobbing hysterically. Shanner, your good wife is tormenting me to death. Facing her baseless accusations, I quickly tried to explain. Husband, I didn't. Rhys glanced at me, his eyes cold and distant, like he was looking at a stranger. The look was utterly alien to me. He didn't say anything, but simply guided his wailing mother towards her room. I stood rooted to the spot, numb, not understanding what I had possibly done wrong. I had heard stories of couples whose relationships crumbled under the weight of a mother-in-law's dramatics. Now, I felt the undeniable crack forming in my own marriage. Whatever conversation Rhys had with his mother that night, it certainly had a profound effect. The next day, Eleanor was a different person. She prepared a lavish breakfast spread, and her attitude towards me underwent a dramatic transformation. Elara, she said, her face wreathed in smiles. I wasn't sure what you liked, so I made some congee, steamed some buns and some siu mai. Please try them, see if they suit your taste. Elara, what do you want for dinner tonight? Mom will cook for you. Elara, this is soy milk freshly ground just for you. Try it, how does it taste? I watched her with a mixture of apprehension and confusion, unsure whether to smile or cry. The sudden drastic shift in her demeanor put me completely on edge. What was she planning now? What was this new act? What's wrong, silly girl? Rhys chuckled, placing a siu mai on my plate. Why are you just staring? Eat up. I lowered my head and began to eat slowly, but the food was flavorless, like chewing on wax. What was truly going on? Had Rhys really managed to appease his mother? As we ate, Rhys added, Honey, my mom says she's going back tomorrow. She wants to have dinner with your parents before she leaves. Can you arrange that? My suspicion deepened. Going back so soon? I thought she was staying for a month. A flicker of annoyance crossed Eleanor's face, so brief I might have thought I imagined it if I hadn't been watching her so closely. Yes, Eleanor said, her smile returning quickly. The big city, I'm not used to living here. Our small town is better, everyone knows each other, I know my way around. It's more comfortable. I looked at her, still feeling uneasy, but ultimately, it didn't matter why she was leaving so readily. As long as she wasn't going to disrupt my life with Rhys, anything was fine. Okay, I said, managing a smile. Mom, since you're here for a little while longer, I'll spend today with you. We can go shopping. Then tonight at 6, we can have dinner with my parents at the Imperial Garden Hotel. Rhys agreed with a nod. Sounds good. Accompanying my mother-in-law on a shopping trip proved to be an exercise in patience that felt akin to torture. Mom, this dress is nice, you should try it on. What? This shirt is $580? Too expensive. No. Mom, how about this dress? It's on sale half price. It's too flashy. People will laugh at me. It's not dignified at all. How about this one? The style is simple, and the price isn't bad. It's too black. Bad luck. My spirit was weary, but I plastered a smile on my face, desperately hoping she would find something she liked, anything, so we could get this over with and she would leave sooner. We continued like this until 5:30 in the evening. Exhausted, I brought Eleanor to the Imperial Garden Hotel. In the private dining room, Rhys was talking to a man who looked about Eleanor's age. When he saw us, Rhys smiled. Honey, this is my Uncle Silas. You toasted him at our wedding. I could barely keep track of my own extended family, let alone Rhys's. I offered an awkward smile. Hello, Uncle Silas. Uncle Silas gave a cool nod and turned back to Eleanor, continuing their conversation. Old sister-in-law, your daughter-in-law lacks discernment, she needs discipline. Eleanor chuckled. She's married into our family now, there will be plenty of opportunities to teach her slowly. I bristled at their words. Needs discipline? What did he mean? And this was supposed to be a dinner with my parents, his in-laws. Why had Rhys even invited him? I whispered to Rhys. Husband, your uncle's words are a bit unpleasant, aren't they? Rhys dismissed my concern with a wave of his hand. He's from the countryside, they talk crudely. Let's just ignore it. Just then my parents arrived, carrying gifts for Eleanor. The atmosphere instantly became warmer, livelier. As the drinks flowed after a few rounds, Uncle Silas finally revealed the true purpose of his presence. He wanted to ask my parents for a batch of scarce hardware parts. My parents ran a successful chain of hardware stores, and they had a good reputation in the industry. We did have a stock of the specific parts Uncle Silas needed, but the market price was rising sharply, and they were in high demand. My father was planning to make a considerable profit from this inventory. Uncle Silas, however, expected to get them at an extremely low price, which felt deeply unfair. My father, out of consideration for me and Rhys, agreed to part with a small portion of the stock, sacrificing some profit. While my parents stepped out to use the restroom, Uncle Silas's face darkened. He turned to Eleanor. Old sister-in-law, you don't have enough influence. Well, I guess this trip was a waste. Eleanor's face flushed with anger. She looked at me indignant. Elara, how could your parents be so inflexible? I don't care, you have to make sure your uncle gets this. Anger flared within me. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces clicked into place. Eleanor's sudden shift in attitude, her willingness to go home. It was all a carefully planned setup. This was what she had been waiting for. Rhys grabbed my arm, pleading. My uncle has always supported our family. I was able to attend university because of his help. Can't you please talk to your parents for my sake? I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Torn and troubled, I hesitated. I was about to say I would try talking to my parents again at home. But before I could, Uncle Silas, his face impatient, spoke up. Talk about what? Your father-in-law doesn't respect you at all. Can't even handle such a small matter without fuss. No need to say anything more. He started to rise, preparing to storm out. Just then my parents returned. His face still sour, he turned to them. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, you're both getting on in years, and you don't have a son. What's the point of earning so much money? The smiles froze on my parents' faces. My father's eyes went wide with shock and hurt. I quickly nudged Rhys, urging him to intervene to smooth things over. But before Rhys could utter a word, Uncle Silas continued, addressing Eleanor. Old sister-in-law, to be frank, your in-laws are too materialistic. I won't be visiting again in the future. At these words my parents shot to their feet, faces red with indignation. It was Uncle Silas who had come seeking a favor, yet somehow our family was being accused of being materialistic. It was a blatant insult, a slap in the face. My father pointed at Uncle Silas, then at Rhys, his hand shaking. He couldn't bring himself to say anything harsh, but the anger was palpable. He turned and stormed out of the room, his face a mask of fury. Seeing my parents leave so visibly upset, I felt a surge of anger and distress. I quickly ran after them. From behind me I heard Eleanor's furious voice directed at Rhys. What? Was anything your uncle said wrong? It's clear their family has never looked down on you. Rhys and I stood in the living room like two children who had been caught misbehaving, straight-backed and silent. My parents sat on the sofa, their faces set in grim lines. The air was thick with tension. Rhys looked up, his face etched with apology. Dad, Mom, my uncle isn't well educated, he's uncouth. He drank too much. Please be the bigger people, don't take offense. My father scoffed, a harsh sound in the quiet room. Said the wrong thing? I think he was quite right. Besides, truth often comes out when you're drunk. If you didn't have those thoughts yourself, could he have said them? Rhys panicked. I didn't. Dad, I truly didn't think that. My father's anger flared. You had no apartment, no betrothal gifts. I'm materialistic? If I were materialistic, would I have married my only daughter to you? And saying I don't have a son? Is he planning to take over our family assets? What was that supposed to mean? Dad, I know you've been good to me, Rhys said quickly. What they think is their business. I've never thought that way. I married Elara because I love her. I'm willing to do anything for her. My father's expression softened slightly, intrigued. Oh, anything? Tell me, what are you willing to do for her? Rhys looked him squarely in the eye. Our first child, regardless of whether it's a boy or a girl, will take the mother's surname. My father's eyes lit up, and the tension visibly eased from his face. Really? Rhys nodded solemnly. Really? At that moment my parents' faces completely relaxed. My father even smiled. Good, he said, clapping Rhys on the shoulder. That is my good son-in-law. On the drive back to our apartment, my emotions were a chaotic mix. I felt a strange sense of relief but also apprehension. If Eleanor ever found out about Rhys's decision regarding the child's surname, she would be absolutely furious. I shivered just thinking about the storm that would unleash. Rhys seemed to sense my unease. He put his arm around my waist and pulled me close, whispering in my ear, his voice low and comforting. Relax, honey. I'll handle everything. His magnetic voice drew me in, comforting me in that moment. I wanted so desperately to believe him, to sink into the safety of his embrace and trust that everything would be okay. After Eleanor finally left, life with Rhys settled into a sweet, idyllic rhythm. Waking up together in the warm sunlight, grabbing breakfast at our favorite local spot, feeling energized for the day ahead. Evenings were spent shopping for groceries, cooking side by side, the fatigue from work melting away in shared laughter and easy conversation. Weekends were for sleeping in, leisurely shopping trips, movies, and exploring new restaurants. Smiles were a constant feature on our faces. This blissful period lasted for 6 months, and then it all came crashing down. Eleanor reappeared at our doorstep, this time accompanied by a young girl. Our perfect bubble was about to burst. Eleanor's face was etched with sorrow and grievance, though her eyes held a cunning glint. Shatter, she wailed, dramatically clutching his arm. That uncle of yours is truly wicked. We kindly invited him to dinner at a fancy hotel, and what did he do? He went back home and slandered us mother and son, making up stories until the whole village is gossiping about me. I can never go back home. Rhys looked shocked. Mom, you mentioned selling your house last time. You didn't actually do it, did you? Eleanor beamed, looking proud of herself. Yes, I did. Sold it for a very good price. See, your mother is capable, isn't she? But you sold your house, Rhys stammered. Where will you live? Here, of course, she declared, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. This is my son's apartment, why wouldn't I live here? She then cast a pointed, expectant look at me. Elara, you wouldn't really make me homeless, would you? What could I do? She had sold her home, she was already here, standing on my doorstep with baggage. My face fell, but I forced a weak, awkward smile. Of course not, mother-in-law. Eleanor's expression instantly brightened. That's good. I'm not staying here for free, you know. See, I've even brought a little help for you. She's a young nanny. She can do all the housework. You just need to provide room and board. She's my niece from my side of the family. Her name is Daisy Bellwether. Eleanor looked at Daisy with an almost doting expression, then instructed her. Quickly greet your older brother and sister-in-law. Remember to be sweet-mouthed, that's how people will like you, understood? Daisy stepped forward shyly, a young girl of 18 or 19. She had a fresh, pretty face and looked innocent in her simple clothes. She seemed quiet and perhaps a little naive. Hello, big brother. Hello, sister-in-law, she murmured. My immediate thought was, with a nanny to handle the housework, maybe there would be fewer arguments with Eleanor. She was Rhys's mother, after all. Perhaps we could find a way to coexist peacefully. Especially since Rhys and I were starting to think about having a baby, I wasn't as adamant about maintaining our two-person world as I once was. A live-in nanny to help around the house didn't seem like such a bad thing. My best friend Zara, however, saw things very differently. Don't say I didn't warn you, she told me, her voice serious. Your mother-in-law showing up like this, she's probably got something devious planned. She didn't just sell her house, she brought a young nanny with her? Something's definitely wrong, seriously wrong. What can I do? I sighed, feeling helpless. I can't just kick her out, can I? She's Rhys's mom, I have to show some consideration. Don't you understand the saying, familiarity breeds contempt? Zara pressed. Living together like this, you're going to have major conflicts sooner or later. You're not suggesting I buy her an apartment, are you? I said, slightly exasperated. Buying a place isn't like buying vegetables, you can't just do it on a whim. Oh, are you really this naive or just pretending? Zara exclaimed. The money your mother-in-law got from selling her house isn't that enough for her to buy her own small place? Then you wouldn't be living together, and naturally the conflicts would be fewer. Zara's suggestion was like a sudden burst of light in the darkness. It made perfect sense. That night I brought it up with Rhys. I fully expected him to agree, to see the wisdom in avoiding future conflict. To my utter astonishment, he erupted in anger, something he had never done before. "Elara Vance," he demanded, his voice sharp and cold. "What has my mother ever done to you that you can't tolerate her being here?" "You're misunderstanding me," I said, taken aback. "I haven't." "Haven't?" he cut in, his voice rising. "Telling her to go buy a house, what else does that mean?" "But I was thinking of her. Our living habits are different, there are bound to be conflicts down the road. When that happens, will you side with me or her? I don't want you to be stuck in the middle." "Enough," he roared. "Stop talking. I absolutely do not agree to my mom moving out, and I definitely do not agree to her buying a house." "But why?" I asked, bewildered. "Why?" he repeated, his voice dropping slightly, a strange note of calculation creeping in. "That money my mom got from selling her house, it's not enough for a full purchase, is it? If the property deed is in my mother's name, it has to be paid in full. If it's a loan, it has to be in my name to get approved. And if it's in my name, then that apartment becomes our joint marital property. It would be co-owned. Don't you understand that?" I stared at him, the man I had loved so deeply for over 4 years, my mind reeling. When had this subtle shift occurred? When had a veil of guardedness fallen over his face, making him utterly inscrutable? I had never been calculating with him about money. My salary often covered our daily expenses while he saved his own income, and I never questioned it, thinking he needed a cushion given his family's background. I never imagined he was actively guarding against me. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "So," I said, the words laced with pain, "this is where you were protecting yourself from me." Rhys's expression turned serious. "That money is my mother's retirement fund. It wasn't easy for her raising me alone. I can't let her be old and helpless, without anything to her name. My own parents paid for this apartment in full, threw us a lavish wedding in a 5-star hotel without a single penny from them, without even asking for a traditional betrothal gift. Were they not easy? And I had no intention of calculating an elderly person's money." What he was really saying, the implication hit me like a physical blow, was that he was afraid if we divorced later, I would get a share of his mother's money or property. Thinking of that possibility, the unspoken fear of divorce lurking beneath his words, my heart ached. If he was already contemplating divorce, how much could he truly love me? I had always believed that a heart could be warmed by persistent affection. Perhaps I had been wrong from the very beginning, chasing after him the way I had. Suddenly, Rhys pulled me into a tight embrace, whispering passionately in my ear, "Honey, please don't make this difficult for me, okay? Can you just tolerate my mom's temper for a little while, for my sake?" Every rational part of me screamed a no. But his sweet words, the sudden rush of physical affection, disarmed me. Against my better judgment, I heard myself say, "Okay. For you, I'll try." And so Eleanor, with the air of a triumphant general, swaggered into our small apartment, establishing herself firmly in our lives. Days turned into weeks, then months. I gritted my teeth and endured, and for a while life was bearable. Eleanor mostly kept to herself, and with Daisy handling the housework, there were indeed fewer direct confrontations. But I gradually noticed changes in Daisy. She started dressing more fashionably, using my cosmetics on the sly. One afternoon I came home to retrieve some documents and saw her before she'd wiped off my lipstick. It felt deeply unsettling to know someone else was using my personal things. Yet she was just a young girl at the age where she cared about her appearance. I couldn't bring myself to scold her. Instead, I gave her the lipstick, telling her she could use my skincare products if she wanted, but please not the lipstick. Her face flushed bright red, and she mumbled an agreement, looking down. But in that fleeting moment, I saw something in her eyes, resentment, even anger. My heart sank. I didn't understand where such intense emotion came from. I wondered if I shouldn't have pointed it out. Just then Rhys arrived home. He looked startled to see me. "Why are you home at this time? Aren't you at work?" I held up the file I'd come for, smiling. "Just came back for something." "Why are you back?" I felt a flicker of nervousness from him, but dismissed it. He slung an arm around my shoulder, giving me a hard kiss on the cheek. "Came back for something too. We're truly a matched pair, aren't we? So in sync." I laughed it off, letting him be affectionate for a moment before heading back to the office. Looking back now, after everything that happened, I realized they were already together then. Why else would she be wearing lipstick around the house for no reason? A woman dolls herself up to please someone. How could I have been so blind back then? Shortly after, the company annual meeting was moved up due to internal restructuring. At noon I went home to change clothes. As I opened the door I heard sounds coming from my bedroom, sounds that made my mouth run dry. Boom! My mind went blank, as if a bomb had exploded inside my skull. The man's voice. It sounded exactly like Rhys's, and it was coming from my bedroom in my apartment. Who else could it be? Creeping silently to the door, I pushed it open just a crack. The scene before me was a sickening tableau of betrayal. Two bodies entwined in the throes of passion. The woman Daisy was breathtakingly seductive. The man Rhys was focused. "Oh darling, you're absolutely intoxicating," Rhys murmured. "Brother Xian," Daisy purred. "Aren't you afraid sister-in-law will suddenly come back?" "Afraid of what?" Rhys scoffed, a chillingly confident tone in his voice. "As long as I say a few sweet words to her, she'll do anything I say. She'd even agree to me keeping you as a mistress." Rage consumed me, burning through the shock. My curse of tear incontinence took over, my composure shattered. I sank to the floor outside the door, sobbing uncontrollably, the raw, ugly sounds tearing from my throat. They heard me. The sounds of scrambling, of hasty dressing, followed. Rhys emerged first, rushing towards me, trying to pull me into his arms. I shoved him away with all my might. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to unleash all the pain and anger. But the tears wouldn't stop, the words wouldn't form. Disgraced and heartbroken, I fled, stumbling out of the apartment. As I burst through the front door, I saw Eleanor emerging from another room, her face utterly impassive, cold and devoid of surprise. In that moment I knew. This wasn't just a random affair. This was something Eleanor had tacitly allowed, perhaps even orchestrated. She had never approved of me as a daughter-in-law, and this was her way of getting rid of me. I had wondered why she had suddenly become easier to tolerate, why she had agreed to leave. She had been waiting, setting this trap for me. In a daze, I ran all the way to Zara Ellison's apartment. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing, crying until I was emotionally drained. Finally, I calmed down enough to tell her everything about Rhys, about Daisy, about walking in on them. Zara was furious. She was fiercely loyal and straight-talking, with a healthy disdain for cheating men. Seeing me so lost and heartbroken, she insisted we go back and confront Rhys. When we arrived at the apartment, Rhys was sitting on the sofa. He didn't stand up, his posture defiant, like someone who had given up trying to hide and simply didn't care anymore. He looked at me coldly. "What are you back for?" His callous attitude ignited Zara's temper. "Rhys Thorne," she snapped. "This is Elara's home, her apartment. Why shouldn't she come back?" Rhys had always disliked Zara, convinced she was trying to drive a wedge between us. Her words only fueled his anger. He exploded. "This is my family business. It's none of your concern, outsider. Get out." Zara sneered, utterly unimpressed. "What? You want to hit me? You should be the one getting out. They say a good person doesn't foul their own nest, but you? You actively did, right in your own home. How disgusting." Rhys surprisingly backed down. He knew Zara came from a prominent family, not like mine, a small business family he could easily manipulate. He didn't dare lay a hand on her. Standing there, sneering, Zara seemed to cow him. He turned his aggression on me instead, pointing a finger and shouting, "I did this because you forced me." I trembled with rage, utterly bewildered. How could I have been so blind, so foolish to have fallen for him? "I forced you." I choked out, my voice shaking. "Did I force you into Daisy Bellwether's bed?" Suddenly, Eleanor's voice cut through the tension. "I told him to be with Daisy." Eleanor emerged from the bedroom, leaning on Daisy for support, her face a mask of righteous indignation. "Our Thorne family has been 3 generations with a single male heir. We must have a bloodline to continue the Thorne family name." What did that mean? Was she implying I was incapable of bearing children? I exchanged a bewildered look with Zara. Even Zara seemed taken aback. What era was this? Finding a mistress for your son? Eleanor glared at me, her voice sharp. "Shatter promised your parents that his first child would take the mother's surname. He meant well, not wanting your Vance family line to end. But what if you have the first child and can't have another? What happens to our Thorne family then?" I stared at Rhys, stunned, the pieces clicking into place, forming a horrifying picture. Rhys Thorne, I said, my voice barely a whisper filled with disbelief. So this is your reason for cheating? What kind of twisted, ridiculous excuse was this? Rhys's expression darkened, turning sullen. You and your parents forced me, he retorted, his voice thick with resentment. Your family is always so superior, so high and mighty. Did you ever consider my feelings? Everything has to be my compromise. Everything has to be done your family's way. Even letting my mother live with us, I couldn't make that decision myself. I've had enough. In that moment, the handsome face I had loved for so long looked completely foreign to me. This was the truth. This was the real reason behind his actions, the simmering resentment and perceived inequality that had festered beneath the surface of our marriage. Before I married him, countless people had warned me. The gap between us was too wide, our values fundamentally different. They said it would lead to major problems eventually. I hadn't listened, choosing my own path, stubbornly, blindly pursuing what I thought was love. Now I had to face the painful consequences. Love? To hell with love. I took a deep, steadying breath, a profound weariness washing over me. I understand, I said, my voice calm, empty of emotion. There were no more arguments, no more tears, no more dramatic outbursts. I walked into the bedroom that was no longer mine, packed a few essential items of clothing, and left, moving into Zara's place. What are you going to do now? Zara asked softly later that night. What else? I said, the decision solidifying in my mind. Divorce, of course. Are you sure you can let him go? Zara asked, a hint of concern in her voice. He was your campus god. The one you chased for 4 years. He cheated, I stated flatly. He betrayed me. Don't be sad anymore, Zara said firmly. Since you've made up your mind, put him completely behind you. For the next few days, I'm putting everything aside. My only job is to help you heal and distract yourself. There are plenty of good men out there. Rhys Thorne? He's not worth another tear. The days that followed were a blur of deliberate distraction and wild abandon. We went out, doing everything we could to forget the pain. One night we hit a karaoke bar, then a club to drink and dance. Midway through the night, Zara took a phone call and stepped outside for a moment. She returned a little later with a handsome guy in tow. In my tipsy state, I barely registered what she said. I just giggled foolishly at him and impulsively grabbed his hand, pulling him onto the dance floor with me. The next morning, I awoke from a hazy, alcohol-induced sleep to find myself tangled in the sheets of an unfamiliar bed, in the arms of a man I didn't recognize. My heart hammered against my ribs, a sudden surge of panic flooding me. Who was he? Where was I? How had we ended up in bed together? Did he have any diseases? The man was undeniably handsome, even more so than Rhys. His clear, intelligent eyes were gazing down at me. You're awake, he said softly. Who are you? I stammered, my voice rough. My name is Caleb Flynn, he said, a gentle smile playing on his lips. I'm Zara's cousin. When you were little, you used to give me lollipops. What? He was that little kid who used to trail after me and Zara, with his snotty nose always begging for candy? He had grown into this? Before I could fully process it, Caleb pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me. He whispered in my ear, his voice deep and resonant. Sister Yusin, I told you I'd come back to marry you when I grew up. Why didn't you wait for me? I quickly pushed him away, my face burning with embarrassment, looking at his handsome, slightly hurt expression. That was just childish nonsense, I mumbled. You can't take it seriously. He looked even more wounded. Do you know, he said softly, when Sister Ting told me you were getting married, I wanted to fly back from abroad immediately to stop you. Now I'm back. No one will ever hurt you like that again. It's impossible for us, I insisted, shaking my head. In my eyes, you'll always be that little snotty-nosed kid asking me for candy. With that, I quickly threw on my clothes and fled the hotel, rushing out as if my life depended on it. I rented a small apartment in a different part of the city and changed my phone number. I didn't tell anyone. Where I was, not even Zara, only my parents knew my whereabouts. I felt a strange sense of blame towards Zara for bringing Caleb to the bar and letting me, in my drunk state, go back to a hotel room with her cousin. I stayed hidden for 3 months. Until one day, I felt something was wrong with my body. I went to the hospital for a checkup and discovered I was pregnant. Calculating the dates, the truth was undeniable. The child wasn't my husband's. How strange. Rhys and I had never used protection. And yet, I had never gotten pregnant with him. That one time, that impulsive, regrettable night with Caleb, and I was pregnant. What was I going to do? After hours of agonizing hesitation, I finally called Zara. "You little brat," she yelled into the phone, a mix of relief and frustration in her voice. "Where have you been all these months? Do you know how worried we were? Especially Caleb. He's gone to your apartment and beaten Rhys Thorne several times." I was stunned. That kid. He had gotten into a fight for me? Did he realize that was a crime? My heart softened unexpectedly. A wave of emotion washed over me, and I suddenly felt the weight of everything, the loneliness, the fear. Tears welled up, and I confessed, my voice breaking. "Zara, I'm pregnant with his child. What am I going to do?" "Whose child?" Zara asked, puzzled for a second. Then sudden realization dawned on her face. "Caleb's," she gasped. Then her voice rose to a triumphant shout. "Quick! Tell me where you are. This is wonderful news. Didn't you know he's been in love with you for years? Elara, do you have a heart?" When she found me, Zara brought Caleb with her. Seeing me, Caleb rushed forward and hugged me tightly, crying like a child. "Woo-woo, I thought I'd never see you again," he sobbed into my shoulder. "Do you know how scared I was?" He pulled back slightly, his eyes red but earnest. "Sister Yusin, I've liked you since I was just a little kid. You're so gentle, so kind, so wonderful. You shouldn't be with someone who doesn't cherish you. Someone who treats you like that." Hearing Caleb's heartfelt words, my heart felt as though it were being squeezed, a sharp, aching pain. "Rhys Thorne?" I asked softly, hesitantly. Is he okay?" Caleb scoffed, resentment flashing in his eyes. "Okay. His home is a complete mess. I only regret I didn't beat him harder." Zara put a hand on my arm. "You should go back and see for yourself, Elara. Things need to be resolved, don't they?" She was right. My situation with Rhys couldn't remain in limbo forever. It needed an ending. "Okay," I said, taking another deep breath. "I want to go back and talk to him about the divorce. Will you two come with me?" 3 months away, and everything in the apartment had changed. Items were moved, rearranged. My old bedroom, our bedroom, was now clearly Rhys and Daisy's. Even our wedding photograph had been replaced by a selfie of him and Daisy, proudly displayed. The sight of it made me feel sick to my stomach. Rhys, Daisy, and Eleanor opened the door, their faces alight with laughter, in the middle of a conversation. Their smiles froze as they saw us standing there, myself, Zara, and Caleb. You're back," Rhys stammered, his eyes widening slightly. "Yes," I said, my voice calm cold. "While I was gone, the three of you seemed to be quite comfortable, didn't you? A happy family of 3. Saying it out loud hurt, a raw wound exposed. After all these years of loving him, letting go wasn't easy, no matter how much he had betrayed me. Daisy stepped forward, placing herself protectively in front of Rhys, her chin tilted up defiantly. "As long as you're not here," she said, her voice dripping with smugness, "our family of 3 is naturally very comfortable." This foolish woman, I thought, so clearly being used, yet she was basking in it, completely unaware of the contempt underlying Rhys's actions. Utterly hopeless. I couldn't help but scoff. "Yes," I said, a sharp edge to my voice. "Being used as a tool for procreation and enjoying every minute of it. You truly are unique." Seeing his young mistress challenged, Rhys exploded. "Elara Vance," he roared. "What's with the sarcasm?" Eleanor, ever ready to add fuel to the fire, chimed in, her voice full of righteous indignation. "Shinner, I told you long ago this woman wasn't fit to be a daughter-in-law. You didn't believe me, and now look? Do you believe me? A man is a woman's pillar, her foundation. If you can't even be obedient, how can you possibly be a daughter-in-law in our Thorne family?" Caleb, who had been standing silently behind me, snorted. "Rhys Thorne," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Looks like you still haven't learned your lesson. Maybe I didn't hit you hard enough last time." Rhys saw Caleb clench his fists and instantly looked panicked. "I'm warning you," he yelped. "If you dare to hit me again, it won't just be a few days in detention. You'll be sentenced. You understand? You'll get a criminal record." My breath hitched. What? That kid? He had been detained for me? If he ended up with a criminal record, it could ruin his future. All those years he spent studying abroad would be wasted. For the first time, I looked at Caleb and felt something stirring inside me. Something I couldn't quite define. Was it affection? Gratitude? Both? I didn't know. Caleb raised his fist undeterred. I don't care about a sentence, he declared, his eyes fixed on Rhys. Who told you to treat Sister Yusin like that? Caleb, no. I stepped forward quickly, shaking my head at him. He glanced at me, saw the plea in my eyes, and reluctantly lowered his fist, stepping back behind me. I turned to Rhys, my resolve hardened. Rhys Thorne, I said, my voice calm and steady. Let's part amicably. Let's get a divorce. Hearing the word divorce, Rhys seemed genuinely taken aback. He clearly hadn't expected me to be the one to propose it, or to be so determined. A divorced woman is worthless, he said, the cruelty of his earlier remark returning. Have you really thought this through? Worthless is still better than being with you, I replied, my voice flat. Rhys had clearly expected me to make a scene, to beg, to be heartbroken and desperate. When I showed up a few days later with a lawyer, he looked completely stunned, all pretense of nonchalance gone. Elara, he stammered, looking pale. Do you really want to divorce me? Yes, I said firmly, meeting his gaze. I do. Why does this have to end in divorce? He pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. Elara, I was wrong, okay? I admit it. You loved me so much. You chased me for 4 years. He was finally panicking, realizing he might lose everything. I cut him off with a cold laugh. Exactly because I chased you, I said, the bitterness heavy in my voice. From the very beginning I was destined to lose. Marriage isn't about winning or losing, he insisted, trying to sound reasonable, contrite. Like the old saying goes, couples fight in bed, make up in bed. Come on, be good, listen to me. This is just a spat, we can get past it. I promise I'll listen to you from now on. He sounded like he was trying to coax a stubborn child, minimizing everything that had happened as a minor disagreement. Rhys Thorne, I said, my voice unwavering. I will not continue living with someone who has betrayed me like this. There's nothing more to say. My mind was made up, my heart hardened against him. Seeing that coaxing and pleading wouldn't work, his face darkened. He suppressed his anger, his voice taking on a harsh edge. I know you. Mind Daisy being here. Don't worry, after she has the baby, we'll give her some money and send her away. We'll still be a good couple. The lawyer beside me let out a quiet sigh of exasperation. Mr. Thorne, the lawyer interjected calmly, are you familiar with family law? Rhys glared at the lawyer, his frustration boiling over. Whether I am or not is none of your business, outsider. He turned back to me, shouting, Elara Vance, are you really set on getting a divorce? Yes, I said, feeling a strange sense of calm settling over me. I am. With a sudden movement, Rhys shot to his feet, pointing a trembling finger at me. Fine, divorce then, he snarled. The apartment is mine. All the property is mine. You leave with nothing. A dry, humorless laugh escaped me. There it was. The real motivation. All his careful guarding against me, all his talk of protecting his mother's money. It all came down to this. He just wanted to keep everything. How utterly pathetic. Rhys Thorne, I retorted, my voice ringing with indignation. You're the one who should leave with nothing. Rhys sneered. Me leave with nothing? Impossible. I'm telling you, Elara Vance, if you want a divorce, you walk out with nothing. Otherwise, I will never agree to a divorce. The lawyer shook his head at Rhys's ignorance, deciding it was time to educate him. Mr. Thorne, he said, his voice firm, please calm down. There are a few things I need to make clear. Firstly, regarding the ownership of this apartment. According to the Civil Code, property purchased by an individual before marriage and registered solely in their name is considered premarital personal property. It is not subject to division in a divorce. Rhys looked visibly unconvinced, but the lawyer continued, ignoring his reaction. Secondly, you committed infidelity during the marriage. Furthermore, you openly cohabited with a third party, essentially living as husband and wife. This constitutes marital misconduct. Ms. Vance has the legal right to file for divorce through the court, and can also claim compensation for damages. It is not up to you to decide whether or not the divorce happens. Mr. Thorne, the lawyer concluded, his tone becoming more direct, let me give you a piece of advice. The most intelligent course of action for you is to agree to Ms. Vance's terms. Present, she is only requesting the return of the apartment, which her parents purchased before the marriage, and an equal division of your shared marital assets. However, if this matter goes to court, we will, on top of that, pursue further claims for damages. Hearing this, Rhys deflated like a punctured balloon. All the bluster drained away, leaving him looking utterly defeated and crestfallen. I stepped forward and handed him the drafted divorce agreement. "Read through it," I said calmly. "If you have no issues, sign it. If you think I'm trying to trick you," I added, "feel free to consult a lawyer yourself." With that, the lawyer and I turned and walked out, without a backward glance. A month later, my divorce from Rhys was finalized amicably. He must have sought legal counsel and realized that agreeing to my terms was indeed the wisest path. Given his actions, he would have lost significantly more if the case had gone before a judge. Regardless of the how, it was over. We had finally parted ways, ending the brief, painful marriage that had left me bruised and wounded. Stepping out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I let out a long, cleansing sigh of relief. Daisy Bellwether, who had accompanied Rhys to the divorce proceedings, saw the signed agreement and stared at it, her face a picture of disbelief. "Brother Xian," she stammered, looking at Rhys. You gave her the apartment? Where will we live now?" Rhys looked awkward, shifting his weight. "That apartment was hers anyway," he mumbled. "Her family bought it. We can buy a new one." Daisy brightened slightly. "Okay, can we buy one even bigger than that? My parents and my brother want to come live in the city too." I turned away with a cold, private smile. Standing behind me, holding a bouquet of bright flowers, was Caleb Flynn, his face beaming with a radiant smile. "Give me a chance," he said softly, looking at me, then my slightly rounded abdomen. "A chance to take care of you and the baby, okay? Maybe later," I said, not meeting his gaze directly, a warmth spreading in my chest despite myself. "Okay," he said, his smile unwavering. "I'll listen to whatever you say." The end.